think you guys have already heard all the generic advice when it comes to, I wish I knew that, or I wish I knew this. You know, it's all the same. It's turn off your view count, or, oh, just play what you love, and I'm sure you'll grow just fine. But what is advice that I've learned over the last 2 years that I wish I knew sooner? What has actually changed the game for me as a streamer? What has made me not care about my view count rather than just turn it off? What has made me actually enjoy making content while I grow? What made me a better streamer that could help you become a better streamer? That's a good question. Let's talk about it. I've been streaming for about 2 years now over on Twitch, and it hasn't all been smooth sailing. In fact, it has been a lot of ups and downs and a lot of stress, to be honest. And if anyone ever tells you guys, I've never seen failure, oh, it's all up, 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 then run, because we make mistakes, and that's how we learn and make videos like this. Speaking of making things easier, there are time codes in the description so you can skip ahead to whatever part of this video that spikes your interest the most. It's a bit more of a casual video, but that's also why I want to issue guys a challenge. If you're watching this, I want you to pause the video and scroll down to the comments. I want you to write out a mistake you've made and what you learned from it, or a tip that you've learned that you can pass on to other small creators, because technically commenting is free and it takes 2 seconds to pass on a piece of advice that someone else might learn from. And while you're down there, you might learn something as well. So I don't know, try it out. Let's have some fun. And yes, of course, asking for comments and likes and subs helps with engagements. I'm not going to try and trick you guys. But also, speaking of engagements, why don't you engage with our sponsor, Own.tv? I want to say thank you to Own.tv. You guys should know them by now, but something you might not know about is their brand new plugin for OBS, Owned Pro. As I said, Owned Pro is a brand new service and plugin for OBS. It has over 600 plus overlays and alerts built into it that can be installed directly into OBS in just a few clicks. They've also got stream labels, event lists, widgets, and a built-in chatbot. But the thing I am most excited about is the fact they've just partnered with Epidemic Sound so that anyone with an Own Pro subscription gets access to all the premium music that Epidemic has for streaming. You can even use the link in our description right now to try out Owned Pro for free, and you'll get access to a wild amount of tools and features. And then if you like it, you can upgrade it anytime you want. So why not click that link, try out some overlays, some alerts, and maybe some music entirely for zero cost. And I want to say thank you again to Own.tv for continually supporting this channel. Honestly, they have been amazing to us, and I really appreciate them. So what is the first thing that I wish I knew in this grand scheme of streaming? Well, it might sound really obvious, but I want you to take a second and really take this in, because I think it hurts a lot of content creators and puts them in a really bad space that they can't make good content in. It makes it impossible to make good content if you don't understand this. As a streamer, or really as a human being that exists in the world, let alone on the internet, every single thing you do or don't do is going to turn people off. Or if you're lucky, it'll turn them on. Which, now that I'm saying that, sounds really bad. Let me give you some specific examples. The title of your stream might be so funny that one person decides to click it, but another person might literally hate that kind of joke and just ignore you entirely. But then the script you wrote for your YouTube video might be so great that one person watches 90% of the video and gets great retention rate, and another person writes a hate comment for you. Or that joke you just told on stream might be so funny you get a bunch of omega lulz, but then one person decides that you're a who needs to shove it up and go jump because you, that, and this, and that. That's just what it is. Streaming is entirely just a game of retention rate. In fact, all content creation is the same. Once someone clicks your stream or your video, your entire goal and your entire job is to keep them watching and keep them engaged. If you can't keep people engaged, they leave, and that means your average viewership will never increase. But the secret I wish I had known is that you can't appeal to 100% of the people who click on your stream. You will not manage to hold them all. In fact, I was talking to a few parted streamers recently who told me that every time they get up to use the bathroom, they lose viewers. So they try and limit the bathroom breaks they take so they can keep maximizing their average viewership. I don't know about you guys, but if you really want to not lose viewers, how about not crapping your pants live on Twitch because you're scared to go take a shit? Essentially, what I'm trying to say is the things that people like and dislike come down entirely to context and personal preference. If someone is posting in your chat they dislike when you do something, there could be a whole slew of other people who love when you do that thing, who just aren't the loud majority. When I wrote this script, all of this sounded really good, and now I'm saying it out loud and I'm worried that it's far too obvious. But at the same time, I think creators constantly struggle to ignore the haters and the criticism and the people complaining about the content that isn't even made for them, and instead focus on your key demographic, the people who actually matter. I'm not trying to say you should ignore feedback, by the way. That is the furthest thing from it. I'm just trying to say that as an actionable tip, you should define your audience. You should take a step back and go, what kind of content do I produce? Who does it appeal to? Why do they like it? And then you should focus on that, rather than on the people who aren't giving you constructive criticism and are just insulting you in the comment section. And if you're struggling to define your audience like that actionable tip says to, then here is an actionable tip to put in your actionable tip. When you first start out, you're probably gonna make content for yourself. You are your own audience. For example, maybe you really like watching Northern Lion. Well, when you go to create content, you will most likely fall into making content similar to Northern Lion. Not because you're copying him, but just because that's the type of content you personally like. And so you'll probably produce it. So think carefully about how you absorb content. Where do you spend your time? Who do you watch? Why do you like watching those people? Because that's likely who your key demographic is, and they likely watch and do all the same things you do. So you can make good content that appeals to them. And before you ask, I know you're going to, how do you know you're making good content? Well, here's an actionable tip for your actionable tip about your actionable tip. Go watch your VOD back. Just sit down, watch one VOD a week of your own content, and ask yourself honestly, are you bored? Are you enjoying it? Is this good content? Would you watch it? Because if you wouldn't watch it, then your key demographic likely wouldn't watch it either. And if you're not watching your VODs back already, then what are you doing? Speaking of making content that you yourself would enjoy watching, the next tip is something that I really wish someone had reminded me of 6 months ago, and that is, do not be influenced to try and be like somebody else. The greatest strength you have is the fact that you yourself are unique. Nobody else is you, and nobody else can pretend to be you. As I said, when you first start out in content creation, you are just being yourself. You're hopefully just making content that you would enjoy watching. And if you start to grow, you'll want more growth. And when that happens, you'll often get given a lot of advice about how you have to act or certain ways you have to grow. And that's fine. A lot of that can be really helpful. In fact, I've given a lot of that advice as well. But something that's really important with my advice is that I always try and give you multiple different examples, or I try and give you the reason why something worked rather than just saying this worked. Because I'm hoping that you guys will be able to take all that information and then convert it and adapt it to fit your content rather than completely changing your content. I know I don't always get it right though, but I try every single video to do my best, and I apologize if it doesn't always work out. I really am just trying to help. Let me give you guys a personal example of something I struggled with in this situation. When I was around 200 average viewers, as I said, I started to stagnate. So I asked all these bigger creators for advice. I went and watched videos on how to grow by bigger creators, and I tried to implement all of their advice. But most of their advice was really just, hey, if your content doesn't have this one specific thing, then that means you are not marketable. None of your skills will work, and you know what? None of your streams can become YouTube videos, and you'll never grow past the point you're at. And I took all of that advice, which objectively is really good advice for a content creator, but I saw massive drops in viewership. And I thought, oh crap, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing the advice wrong. I need to double down and do it properly and do it better. And I saw even more drops in viewership. What had happened is that I'd made all these changes to my content that it kind of stopped reflecting who I was, and it no longer appealed to the people who enjoyed watching me. It wasn't why they'd followed. It wasn't why they'd stuck around and watched me grow. I had become this weird Frankenstein's monster mishmash of creators who I respected. I was trying to be like Point Crow. I was trying to be like Ludwig. I was trying to be all these different people because essentially I'd been told the reason you are stagnating at 200 average viewers is because your content isn't the right fit. You as a person and a creator aren't the right fit. It doesn't work. Serious question for you guys. Do you ever feel like this? Do you ever sit there and go, I guess I'm just not good enough, or I'm not the right fit to be a streamer? I can't be the only one who goes through this on a weekly basis. Please let me know in the comments. By the way, the advice I was given wasn't bad, and I have a whole video coming soon about that advice and why it works for some, why it didn't work for me, and why it might work for you. So subscribe if you're interested in that. Essentially, the short of this tip is I wish I had been more confident in who I was, and I wish I'd been more confident in my successes and the reason why people watched me. My audience and my community liked my format. They liked that I would go live, I'd do some chatting, I'd do a little segment like a tier list or a video react, and then I'd play a game that fit our niche and fit what we all enjoyed. That was why they watched me. Does this format work for everyone? No, absolutely not. But it worked for me and it worked for my audience. But also, far more importantly, it wasn't the format, it was me. They liked my jokes. They liked my energy. They liked me being who I was because I was being genuine. And when you are genuine as a content creator, people will connect with that. It's easy to recognize when someone isn't being fake. When I started twisting who I was or changing my content to try and appeal to this algorithm or this concept of how to break through 200 average viewers, well, I stopped enjoying content creation because I stopped being genuine in the content I was creating. You might be thinking, LJ, this is really similar to the first tip, but I promise you it's different. The first tip was, don't try and appeal to everyone because then you will never be loved by anyone. And this tip, as simple as it sounds, is to be yourself and to be confident of that, and don't let that shake you. Don't try and be someone else because then you're not being genuine. Nick Tacular, who is a fantastic Twitch streamer, said recently on the Stream Room podcast, which is a new streaming and content creation podcast that I am a part of. If you want, we release episodes weekly. I'll link it in the description. He said, for a brand new creator, the best advice he can give if you're trying to be entertaining, engaging, trying to really show off your personality without being fake, is to take the microphone and just hold it to your personality. And I think that's really spot on. You don't change who you are. You just allow yourself to be heard, to be seen, to be a bit bigger while you're making content. I am trying really hard right now to come up with something actionable, something measurable, or a metric to help you guys with this tip, because that's what I am. I'm the guy who always says you get actionable tips when you watch my videos. And I guess for someone who has struggled with the idea of being genuine, the best thing I can say to you is that I know when I'm being genuine because I'm enjoying myself. If I'm having a lot of fun making content or a lot of fun streaming, that usually means I'm being myself. So maybe start there. Do you enjoy what you do? Does that help? Hopefully, I don't know, maybe next tip. Speaking of the Stream Room podcast, the next tip is actually something I learned by being a part of that project and working with the other creators over there. So stay tuned for that. But first, I will say, if you didn't know, we just released a whole bunch of animated overlays for your stream. They go alongside all the other dozens that we've already released. They're all linked in our Discord, so you can go check those out with the link in the description. And while you're down there, if this video helped you out at all, consider subscribing, liking, and of course, comment down below your advice for every other content creator, and maybe check out what everyone else is saying. So what did I mean when I said that I learned something by being a part of that podcast? Well, what I learned was that I was incredibly lonely as a streamer. In fact, I was incredibly isolated as a human being for the past 2 years. In these past 2 years, I think I can count on one hand how many collaborations I have done with other content creators of my size. Yeah, I've got family and friends and moderators, but I don't have other streamers or creators who are the same size as me, going through the same steps and dealing with all the same things that I deal with. I had no one I could turn to share my successes or my failures with. I couldn't say, hey, this thing happened, is it normal? I couldn't ask people, hey, do you like this idea? Do you have any feedback about how I could implement it into my stream properly? But also, most importantly, I couldn't say, hey, I am really struggling as a content creator right now. How do I grow further? What do I do next? How do I enjoy myself again? But so far in the past few months of 2022, I've worked so hard to become friends with amazing content creators who are talented, who inspire me, who make me work harder. Not because I want to have that hustle grind set, not because I want to network or cross-pollinate our viewership. No, just because I want to have friends who I can share my experiences with, because that makes it so much easier. Having like-minded creators who are all going through the same things as me has made me more confident, it's made me more comfortable, but most importantly, it's just made content creation much more fun. Just quickly, I looked at the date when I said the past few months of 2022 and realized we're actually 5 months into this year. We are almost halfway through 2022 already. If I have to realize that, then you have to realize that. Mr. Beast once said the best advice for a brand new creator is to make 5 friends who have all started YouTube channels around the same time. Because if you're alone and you make 1 video a week, and let's say every single video you make 5 mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes, it takes you 5 videos. It takes you 5 weeks before you learn 25 mistakes. But if you are one of 5 friends who are all releasing content every single week, and you're all making 5 mistakes each on every video you release, and you're all sharing that advice and showing what worked and what didn't work and supporting each other and making sure you can all be the best you can possibly be, well then in just 1 week, you will learn 25 different mistakes not to make next time. which would have taken you 5 weeks, 5 videos to do alone. So the actionable tip is don't do this alone. Go out there and find communities who are as passionate as you are. Interact with them. Make friends who are all trying to grow their channels as well. If you love a certain game, you have certain hobbies, or you just really like certain types of content, then I promise you there are other people out there who have the exact same love for those things. There are Discord communities for everything now. And I can't believe I have to say this in 2022, but no, I don't mean just go spam your Go Live link or ask for feedback from other creators. Don't join a stream purely to try to be friends with the streamer. I mean, go find like-minded individuals that you can talk to, become mates with, and learn from each other and grow together. Not follow for follow, not support for support, actually good networking. And if you made it this far in the video, then please consider liking and subscribing. It was a very different type of video. But hey, speaking of different videos, this one here I think is pretty damn good. It's called 3 Big Mistakes Small Streamers Are Still Making. Why not give it a click and see whether or not you are still making these 3 mistakes as well.